It's an orange juice.
What's up everyone? This is OJ. The Mega Knight has a massive spawn stomp. It's a huge area with a one-tile knockback on medium-sized units. This deals twice as much as his regular attack. It's near the damage of a fireball. His second attack knocks out all of these fireball-y units. Night Witch and Bandit are not fireballies. They have more health and require a second swing. His jump activates between 4 and 5 tiles, has a 1.1 second charge time, and it deals twice as much as his regular attack. Same with his spawn stomp. His jump has the same knockback, but the radius is a bit smaller. The stomp and jump will not target air units. He'll crush the Skarmy, but that minion horde is going to give him some problems. He has a 1-tile attack range. This is the same as a mini PEKKA or Dark Prince, pretty standard melee attack. Just like a PEKKA, this guy is someone you do not want locking onto your tower. He has the ability to take it out and then some. He's got the same hit speed as the mini PEKKA as well. That means he shares the same mechanic, so if a hog is running away while it's finishing its attack, it'll still land that attack. As a result, the hog gets 0 hits on your tower. Even with a pig push, the Mega Knight will be able to deny a hog entirely. This is 7 for 4, but the counter push potential is real. He is a force to be reckoned with. Even an Ice Golem hog combo only gets 1 shot off the tower, and now your opponent has to deal with a counter push of a full health Mega Knight. This is a very precise timing that can actually stop all hits from the hog. But this is not practical to rely on, because it's nearly impossible to pull this off consistently. His attack has a splash radius of 1.3 tiles. To put that into perspective, the Dark Prince has a 1-tile splash radius. Guards are a bit thicker, so most of the time, he'll still hit 2 of them. You can surround him with guards on occasion, but it's very difficult and not practical to pull off. Here's another example of his massive splash radius. You can surround him with barbarians to counter him, but usually 2 to 3 barbarians will still get splashed on a certain side. That being said, you can easily surround him with the thinner skeletons, though that will not stop him. But of course, you can't expect 1 elixir to defend against 7. That's why you need to pair it with minions, Musketeer, bats, or something with high damage output. Unlike the Bandit's dash, he is not invincible when he jumps. He'll continue taking damage while airborne and can actually die mid-air. Here's an interesting interaction against the Bandit. Once his jump is already initiated, he will not falter. Once he's already charged up, he's gonna jump. Although you can't pull him with a tornado while mid-air, you have to wait until he lands before that tornado can suck him in. The Mega Knight can be substituted with a PEKKA in certain decks, but leaves you weak against Golem. PEKKA is the best counter. Here's the difference though. Once that PEKKA is counter-attacking, it's relatively easier to distract with smaller swarm units. Here's the difference. If you defend with Mega Knight and counter-attack, it's much more threatening with the jump. If you don't have the proper counter in rotation, it's going to cost a lot to prevent him from locking onto your tower. Not to mention this scenario does not include him having support units. If you're facing a beatdown deck with PEKKA or Golem, counter push the other lane hard. It's highly unlikely your opponent has a 3 elixir hard counter to the Mega Knight and its support units. That being said, it's not the end of the world. Let's flip this scenario around. If you planted a PEKKA in the back, you'll want to use his jump mechanic to your advantage. Something ranged but cheap like an Ice Wizard can aggro him onto your PEKKA. The magic is his jump mechanic. It increases his total damage output while existing. For example, if you have a Golem and Zap against an Inferno Tower, your Zap isn't going to help the unsupported Golem because it waddles so slowly towards the tower. Whereas if you have a Mega Knight and Zap against the Inferno Tower, he'll jump onto the Inferno immediately, and right before dying, he'll jump onto the tower. Don't worry though, the Inferno is still a hard counter, but if they have Zap, just put down an Ice Spirit or something. With Spirits, they're an excellent way to manipulate his pathing and bait out his jump. The Spirits won't actually die from his jump and they'll survive long enough to jump onto him. His jump is pretty deadly. It can one-shot archers and bombers, then proceed to jump onto the next target. His regular attack deals 240 damage, so he'll one-shot Princess and Dart Goblin, but without that jump, those archers and bombers will survive the first swing. With the right units, the Mega Knight is not difficult to counter. If you have a tank and a support unit, he'll melt. PEKKA or Prince can deal with him fairly well. A Dark Prince can counter him surprisingly well too. I mean, if there was an Ice Spirit too, it could stop him completely. Skarmy is an okay counter to him, but with his 1.3 tile splash radius, he can usually annihilate the Skarmy. If you time it just right, you can maybe stop him 1 in 10 times. This is not reliable. The timing and positioning are too precise to pull off in a real game. But I mean, if he already has half health, absolutely use Skarmy to surround, or at least have support units backing up that Skarmy. You do not want to plant units when he's ready to dash onto the tower. Just like the Bandit, once he's already initiated the dash, you will not be able to stop his jump. The Zap spell does not reset his dash attack. Once it's initiated, he's dead set on going LeBron James on that Ice Golem. Don't even think of planting down that Electro Wizard to interrupt his charge, because it doesn't. This is even worse because he's classified as a Firebally. He's gonna disappear fast. Aside from Tornado, the only other spell that can reset his charge is the Mighty Log. The knockback resets it completely and lets you quickly plant a tank to prevent him from charging the jump. But even the Mighty Log can't hit the Mega Knight while he's midair. He'll dodge it completely because he's quite literally airborne and the log only hits ground units. If you don't have a PEKKA or Prince, the second best way is to put down a tank and a strong hitting unit. Ice Golem is an okay tank. Make sure to plant him in front of the Mega Knight, pair it with an E-Wiz, and they'll just be able to stop him. This is 6 elixir on your side. Placement is key. If you place the Ice Golem too high, the outcome is completely different. Your E-Wiz dies, and your tower takes 1,000 damage. It doesn't have to be an E-Wiz. Could be minions or other high DPS units. Minions and Ice Golems are probably one of the cheapest 2-card combos. It will barely stop him. Of course, this only works if they don't have splash support units behind him or arrows. If Mega Knight becomes meta, I'd rather have a Knight than an Ice Golem, so a tank can be something like a Valkyrie Knight or an Ice Golem, and the heavy hitter can be Bats, E-Wiz, Musketeer, minions, etc. A mini PEKKA is not enough to take out a Mega Knight. You'll need something to support the mini PEKKA. This is an 8 for 7 elixir. This is not a negative elixir trade, because you now have the option to counter push with that leftover Musketeer. The problem with these combos is sometimes you may only have one of the 2 cards in rotation necessary to counter him. He's gonna jump on your tower fast. At least the cannon cart stops him alone. One interesting way to counter him is to sacrifice 25% of your king tower to prevent all that damage for a +3 trade. This should only be done once. You're trading life force for sweet, sweet elixir. Another combo that wrecks the Mega Knight is the classic Ex-Nado combo. The only thing with this though is that you have to make sure to have a beefy tank to ensure that he doesn't jump onto your executioner. The tank you use must be able to withstand the Mega Knight and its supporting units behind him. Of course, if you have an Inferno Tower, it'll stop him as long as they don't have prediction minions, a zap spell, or a Night Witch behind him. There are 2 more buildings that can stop this beast. The Bomb Tower can take care of him because it has so much health. A Barbarian Hut barely stops him, a 7 for 7 trade. A few barbs will spawn if you want to consider counter pushing. His Spawn Stomp radius is massive, but it's not that big to be able to take care of a Goblin Barrel surrounding your tower. But just like the E-Wiz, if you time it correctly and deploy right as the shadow of the barrel flies past the tower, you can destroy all of the goblins. This is a ridiculous combo, but maybe against Logbait you don't have the log in rotation. This is a reliable technique that I can pull off every time. It's a matter of practice. Once a king tower is down, the optimal tile to deploy him is the deepest. He'll deal the same damage, so it's best that he starts as close to that tower as possible. If you have a ranged or flying unit like Musketeers or minions, a Tombstone is actually really good at stopping him. It makes him want to play hopscotch. And of course, he wrecks Expo decks. Here's a real situation where a prediction golem will not stop him from connecting to that expo. Even though that Mega Minion is deployed, that Mega Knight is tanky. 7 elixir versus 12. Now imagine if I decided to commit more elixir on that defense. So he's intimidating to counter, but with the right cards, he can be managed every single time. If you substitute the PEKKA with the Mega Knight, this changes the dynamic of your deck entirely and leaves you extremely vulnerable to golem decks. Even though he replaces the PEKKA, he is extremely weak to golem and PEKKA decks. He has the strengths where he's very strong against fireball units, so decks that have a lot of Ice Wiz, E-Wiz, Wizard, Witch, they're going to suffer his wrath. But decks that have anti-lightning, like the Splash Yard deck, will have Baby Dragon, Knight, and Bowler. These are the units that can resist lightning, fireball, and the Mega Knight's jump. Even though he appears scary, the bottom line is that the Night Witch costs 4 elixir and fits in every deck. This guy does not. He costs 75 more elixir than the Night Witch, and can counter some decks really well, but he can get countered really well too. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more quality OJ.